binder out and your seminar prep out. I would start gathering evidence, anything you want to use for evidence. Start formulating your arguments. In 5 minutes, we'll come back together. Anyone who's in prep, you have this period and this period only to complete that prep. So you should be actively working on the seminar prep. Any questions or concerns from anyone?
You have your binder?
Which string? I'm saying between.
If you think you're ready, sit in a circle, Jake.
Arjun, sit next to Juwan. I think. I'm saying right. I think it's this me. Alright, I think they're ready. Let's see. What's that? Your chat. Va, try winning.
You don't have your binder, you need to take some paper out, something to write with. To take
Yo.
notes. I don't have paper. Does anyone have any paper that a classmate can use? Thank you. Have your binder? Binder?
Last room. Last room. There's
But 3.5 minutes. Everyone, please remember that your participation today is a test grade. You don't have many of those. You don't have to be silent for this. If anyone wants to discuss any points, prepare anything, feel free. You don't have to be silent. Or you can, but you.
Oh my God. I got it. Discuss.
About 30 seconds.
Google. Google. Google stuff.
All right, everyone. That is 5 minutes. Once again, to everyone outside the circle, please take this time to complete the seminar prep. If you can complete the seminar prep by this period, you will still receive credit for the prep, but not for the seminar. If at any point during this period you finish the seminar prep, please come join the circle. Today, once again, is our seminar on can you please read it for the class, please?
Students will be able to participate in this part of seminar to articulate the and significance of the play.
Thank you. We have the prompt, which is, what is Arthur Miller's purpose for writing The Crucible? What is his message to readers? Remember, there's 3 ways to earn points. Pose a higher level question to the group, respond to your peers, make insightful comments, and reference the text. Right, Darius? Very good. So in order to get to this question, what I'm going to do for this class is we're going to break it down into the prompt prep. So first, what we have is the state of the community at the beginning of the play, as the play progresses, and at the end of the play. But I don't want to start with this question. I'd like to start with question number 2. Can someone please pick up by describing how Puritan culture and religion really define the events of The Crucible? Remember, do not look at me, look at one another. You don't need to raise your hand, just begin discussing.
I said that Puritan culture was the major factor in the events that took place, since everything that happened was based off of their belief of something going against their religion, something going against what they believed, which was God and rules and good practice.
I agree. I also that at the era of the Crucible, religion was very important. Like being a witch was taken very seriously at the time. Characters that took religion very seriously: Rebecca Nurse, Reverend Hale, and then Elizabeth Proctor.
Said the same thing. They said the religion's like the most important thing in their life. How they rebuilt someone to die, and almost every character is preoccupied by emotional trauma. It took it so seriously that they even killed people that didn't confess and ask for forgiveness and receive it from like God or the people basically.
Which character represents, you think, the strictest adherence to just Puritan religion? The person who is the strictest when it comes to, like, we have to follow these rules in this way.
Because well, most people would say maybe Reverend Parrish, but he was only doing it for his own reputation. And I don't see anyone else that was taking all of this as seriously as Danforth and not considering it that everything is a lie.
I disagree. I said Rebecca Nurse and Reverend Hale because I feel like they took religion very seriously at the time, and that they would never like imagine that that Rebecca Nurse would be a witch, but she took religion very seriously.
I do, yeah, because Danforth, he took his religion very seriously. Plus, he followed God's rules, and he very he's more like about a community person. So yeah, I do with him.
So I don't know what you should say. He said Reverend Hill, but Reverend Hill was definitely religious, but he wasn't as religious as Danforth. He was like nice, and with Danforth, he'd take everything like, seriously. He wouldn't even consider it they were lying.
I want to stick on this comparison very quickly. Danforth and Hale, 2 important characters, both religious men. However, very, very different people when it came to how they viewed the Salem witch trials. Governor Danforth, can someone characterize Governor Danforth for us in terms of abiding by the law and religion and what he was like? Can someone just characterize him for us very quickly?
He was Danforth was a strict person, very loyal to God, wouldn't do anything to betray God, like what else? Everybody respects him.
And what was his main motivation?
Came to how do I say it? For the trials of witchcraft, that he wanted to make sure. I don't explain it, but
You're getting around it, Jawad. What was his motivation? What was the one thing about him that motivated him the most to just strictly adhere to the law and have everyone do the same thing? Don't look at me.
Justice.
Justice? What do you mean by justice? Yeah. What is the one thing that motivated Governor Danforth more than anyone? Remember, in our characterization charts, we had a section for motives. What motivated him the most? What was the one thing that motivated him to do what he did?
I think the one thing that motivated Danforth the most is probably protecting his basically reputation and saying like protecting how religious he was. He didn't want to make it seem like he was soft and couldn't anything started. So he was mainly focused on his reputation when he was getting everybody home.
I agree. His motivation was his position, like as a judge, that kept him motivating and like doing the truth, like what Ayab said in his story.
So his motivation was his reputation. No one should know that I am weak. No one must know that I have made a mistake. Did he make a mistake? He made many mistakes, but he would refuse to admit them. Now, going back to Reverend Hale, what motivated him, especially at the end of the play?
He felt guilty that the reason John Foster died was because of him.
And what did that guilt make him do?
He realized that people were losing their lives and they don't even know if it's like the accusations are true or false.
So which characters best exemplifies Puritan religion? Puritan adherence to the law, to the word of God.
if we're talking about who Danforth, he's most loyal to God, like he cares about it the most.
If we're talking about who represented Puritan culture the most, it's not Hale because Puritan culture was strict and there was no mercy in it. But Hale was definitely one of the most kind and merciful.
I agree with CEO. I think that Danforth was like strict.
If anyone is utilizing textual evidence, we should all be flipping to that same page so that we can follow along. So Fanta, can you please just repeat that page number and then repeat the quotation? Page 87.
They, a person is either with the court or he must be counted against it. There is no
That certainly reveals his strict adherence to law. It is the way of the courts and the law, or it is the highway. There is nothing in between. Do we think that that is a good trait for a leader to have? Not that, like the trait of it's this way or it's this way. There's no in between. There's no gray area. Is that a good trait for a leader to possess? Why not, Madonna?
Because he still feels about his people. He just he bought all the bubble with John Tucker and his wife Lizzie, and it wasn't them the bubble, it was the girls, but he doesn't leave them. He didn't leave the girl. I mean, he leave the girls. He didn't leave John Tucker and his wife.
I disagree. The question was, is it a good trait? It wasn't what else could he have done. It's definitely a good trait to take command. Sure, he could have done things better, like include what people thought. But if we're going based off of it was this a good trait for a leader? Yeah, it was.
Now, I've heard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voices so far. To a voice that I haven't heard yet, I want this question to be answered. And we're going to focus on question number 3 right now, as I've posed on the screen. And that is, what role did fear play in creating authority in this society? And what role did fear play in general when it came to Salem witch trials? Why was fear and manipulating that fear so important? Witch trial?
Witchcraft.
Salem witch trial.
The witches.
I need you to elaborate more. Viola, you want to say something?
I'm gonna say something.
Fear had a big role because like people didn't want to die, so they lied.
I can say it.
Yeah,
I agree with
I
you.
also said that fear would make people lie into like saying that witches so they could go live, or they like worship the devil so they could go live and not die or get hanged.
I'll get around to it.
Go.
I got it around to the court was authority. They labeled people as witches. Some people came to the court in defense of witches. They spoke against their trial because the court and religion were together. People who defended the accused witches were labeled as witchcraft supporters. Many were afraid of speaking against the court.
Thank you, Michelle. Elijah, do you want to add on?
Yeah, I feel like fear made played a main like role in the character because fear made characters not characters the people to like confess. So it made people confess on witchcraft.
Also, fear gave the court more power, which allowed them to have a reason to hang those people in Salem, and they allowed them to control them, which brought more fear to them, and which would make more fear to the other towns, and which would, run over everywhere.
I said Reverend Parrott realizes that he can use the town's fear of witchcraft and go to gain power, and people will see him as a source of power. Like,
I agree.
Deeper.
People with a higher ability like them for
Deepness and
at the
detention.
beginning they used like the idea of witchcraft to gain control of the town. On page 31, it says, "The devil may become evident as a weapon designed and used time and time again in every age to get men to surrender to a particular church or church favorite."
Fantastic. That's a great piece of evidence. And the use of fear in this play is one of the most important things I believe in this play. Now, sticking with this idea of fear, what do you think Miller's message to his readers are about fear? And you can relate this idea of fear to our society today. This is a play that took place in the 1690s, but the ideas still relate to our world today. What is he trying to tell us about fear, not just back then, but today, and how we utilize fear, or how other people utilize fear against us today?
Fear basically manipulates people. Like if you use fear
Trying to be lied to people. Trying to be lied.
yeah, fear can take control on us, like make us do things we don't want to do.
But who does that? If you feel fear, you act a certain way. But what happens when that fear that you feel is going against the collective, the community? Everyone else who wants you to be or act a certain way. What role does that play? Fear as an individual when it's against the collective community.
Fear being an outcast.
Fear being what?
An outcast.
What happens if you're labeled as an outcast?
Well, you'll be alone, and you won't have people to rely on, for you to support, for them to support you. The main fear would be them being alone.
I feel like we can build off of that and add some more points to that.
I agree. I think that the when you're alone by yourself against like a whole, like it's just one against a whole bunch of people, you can easily be accused. And that's why people always go to these side where people are majority at instead of being by themselves. People rather be in a group than be by themselves.
I agree with Phantom, I agree with Phantom, like, for example, people take other people's voices. So for example, like if you're by yourself and there's like another like large crowd accusing you of something, yeah, so you obviously go for the larger crowd because there's more people. I guess, yeah.
So, what is the easy choice? To live alone in fear or to conform to the collective idea, even though it may be wrong or immoral. So think about Salem. You can either live alone in fear, or you can join in and accuse people of being witches, which ends up, what ends up happening to them? They get hanged. Or you do not confess, and you alone face the consequences of not conforming.
Couldn't you just run away from Salem?
Do you think? Was that an option?
No.
Why not?
They were surrounded by Native Americans.
They were surrounded by, like, this is a very small community, tight-knit community. You can't just, like, it's not like you're in Jersey City, like, oh, I'm just gonna go to Hoboken to New York City. Like, there was Salem, and then hundreds, if not thousands of miles of just forest, surrounded by French settlers who wanted to kill them, Native Americans who wanted to kill them. So you can't really go anywhere. It's like, you're stuck at Beloved, and that's it. This is what you know. The size of that community was about the size of, like, the Beloved. Very isolated. So you can't go anywhere. The furthest you could go is to the elementary school building.
So how did they resist the building?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like, couldn't they like combine all themselves and like fight the court or like fight the judge?
Why didn't they fight the courts and the judges?
The power they had.
So it's either do or die.
Why wouldn't, it's the same thing with you. Does everyone here want to do all this work all the time?
No,
Why don't you rebel and fight all the teachers?
because they still would agree with you.
Why don't you just rebel, fight against all the teachers? Rebel. Come fight me right now and then run away. Why isn't that an option?
Because my mom will pick me out.
Everything will be in jail. It will be.
You have no
Well,
words.
like how we have someone that we obey, which is our parents. We can't just get up and fight teachers. Just like how the Puritans, they were really religious. They had God. If they did something like that, then we just go against what they did.
Yeah, that goes against your core values and beliefs as a Puritan person. Anyone remember the Puritan Code of Ethics?
Yeah.
People lived according to the Puritan Code of Ethics. One of those ethics was you put the collective, the community, always above yourself. So regardless of what you want, you do what the community wants. That's hard to run away from. You can't run away from that, especially if that's the only idea that you're used to your whole life. All right, let's move on to the next question, unless anyone wants to add anything to this.
Mia, you can fight me.
Yeah, I'm gonna fight you.
You can fight me too, Kishad.
I'm gonna fight you.
All right.
I'll go to peace.
You want a piece of it too? Okay. Question number 4.
Get this piece of it. I can shoot you, right?
Judge Danforth
Sorry.
says that a person is either with this court or he be counted against it. This is a piece of evidence that Fancy used earlier.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah,
But what happens to
yeah.
society when there is no road between? And I want to preface by saying this. There's the black, there's the white, there's no road between. Are we as human beings, are we one way or the other way?
No, we're not.
What do you mean by we're in the middle? What does that mean?
Sometimes we agree with things and sometimes we don't agree with things. We have to be in the middle between.
I agree.
I say it becomes divided and result in chaos and stress, and people start pointing the finger at each other.
You gotta have something more. We can leave it as silence for the next 20 minutes if you'd like.
I said I believe that a society where there's no road between, when there's a road in between, means it's a thriving and well-profound society, and I think it would be able to have everyone accept choices in the community, so that you could build like stronger relationships with everyone, and probably lead everyone and your grandkids to have a better future, instead of just choosing one side and fighting about it.
I think what Danforth meant by that is that you either, if you're accused by witch, you either admit to it or you are, or you don't admit to it and you get hanged.
I feel a society where there's no road in between is not gonna last because nobody's right all the time or wrong all the time. It's not gonna last.
I said it'll lead to, in a way, a division between the community, because some people choose one side, and then other people choose another side, and maybe the people on one side will judge the people on the other side. There's no neutral in it.
So do you think Judge Danforth, what does he symbolize? I think we discussed this in class. What does he symbolize?
He's the kind of person for following the rules under the law.
Okay, following the rules under the law. He does represent the law, the courts. Do you think that even in this country today, that the criminal justice system, the courts, that they should be a system that is black and white, no road between?
No.
But why not? Wouldn't that make things easier? Like, you did the crime, so you serve a sentence. You did this, so you do that. That's it. There's no road between. Doesn't that make sense for law enforcement? Why not, Kim? You said no. You disagree with me.
Oh, because like sometimes there's like it's not always like, oh, you do a crime. Like, what if there's like certain crimes where like it's actually reasonable and there should be judges that like judge them and
I agree.
Can you like explain my question better? With the judge system.
So what I meant by that question is, it seems like Judge Danforth, who represents and symbolizes the courts and the law, is very much into there is no road between there is black and then there is white. You're either guilty or you are not. You've done this or you haven't done this. And in terms of law enforcement and the courts, do you believe that that is a value that we should have in our society today?
No.
Because it seems simpler. It seems easy, right?
or it's
But
not,
what is the reality of the situation when it comes to how people and communities are?
it's not reasonable.
Explain.
It's not reasonable because the way that Danforth does it, like if you did the crime, like without any evidence, if someone accuses you, then like you're instantly sentenced to hanging. But we couldn't like do that now because there's like
We didn't get anywhere with that. So do we have that kind of system? No? What do you mean, Panther?
There are certain crimes that are done that other people have done, they get let off sometimes. There's certain people that commit certain crimes that, but it's like when you're a certain person that commits a certain crime and you have like for example, when Salem was called, they didn't do too much. It was like investigating. It was like investigation and then
Feels orange.
But in this day and age, I feel like it's more we interrogate and forensics, all that, so we can get a way of like we can get a just of like what happened, what went down, and the person is sentenced. And I feel as though if a person committed a crime to save their life, then they should be pardoned.
When it comes to thank you for that, Fanta. When it comes to the culture of the world we live in, though, I always find myself saying that people always just label others as this or that. You're Democrat, you're a Republican. What happens to people who usually say, no, I'm not really one of those, I'm like kind of in the middle? How are those people usually seen?
Someone who doesn't know politics.
Someone who doesn't know politics, what else? Maybe they don't care. So why do we have this like belief that like you have to be this or that all the time? What is the benefit of this? Or what are the dangers of this?
Like I said,
A little louder.
division between a community. They both have different opinions. They both try to settle those opinions in different ways. That's gonna divide the community. Like in today's day, if you say, for example, you say you're a Democrat and you're in a class full of Republicans, they're probably gonna judge you for that.
Okay. I'd like to move on from this point. I don't know why the question that I wrote down says John Hale. Is John Hale a character?
Yeah.
John Hale is not a character.
No.
There is John
No.
Proctor and Reverend Hale. Who do you think I meant here?
Reverend Hale.
We can talk about both here. John Hale's not a character.
John Hale, no.
So let's talk about Reverend Hale and John Proctor. I want to focus on the ending of this play because I think the ending of this play is a tragic ending. What at the end of this play stands out about John Proctor? Why does he make the decision that he makes? What's the decision that he makes?
His wife
They
is
ripped up the
I didn't hear anything clearly here.
he ripped up the paper he signed.
What?
To me, when I read that, the paper was like they wanted the signature really bad just to make it look like what they were doing was right and that they caught someone, which would drag his name in the dirt. And ripping that paper up was symbolizing going against what they wanted, going for the right thing instead of going for the wrong thing.
So let's break this down. He ripped up that confession, that paper. Why? What did that preserve in him? Everyone, just talk.
His honor.
Reputation, honor.
Yeah.
What were the consequences of that?
His life,
His life.
His children.
What do you mean? What do you mean his children?
Like, they wouldn't be treated the same as before. Like they would see them as witnesses too.
If he ripped it up. If he ripped it up, that means that he did not confess.
Yeah.
So are there any consequences to his children by him ripping up that letter? Well, there's something, right? They grew up without a father. Right? Is Elizabeth also set to be hanged? So potentially they could be orphans. Right? Okay. So those are the consequences of him ripping up that paper. If he doesn't rip the paper and he confesses, what happens?
everyone's his children's future.
Sorry?
Everyone's his children's future.
Okay, what else?
Ruins his reputation and his family's reputation.
Okay.
he'd have to frame one of his friends.
Yeah, and you have to lie and say one of his friends is also a witch. At the end of this play, this is a question that I think everyone should have an opinion on. Is John Proctor a hero? Why? Someone start. Don't look at me. Is John Proctor a hero?
He was the first person that went against the war.
I think John Proctor was a hero because he was, like Viola said, the first person to go against something that was morally wrong, and he knew it was wrong. And instead of saving himself by framing innocent people, he just took the blame.
I disagree. I think he's not a hero. I mean, like, he should have think about his children being maybe orphans before he read that paper.
More important than
Nigga.
most of the people in the grave. No. You have two kids and thinking a hero would put his kids over a bigger amount of people.
Like, it wasn't around that people was more to accomplish that.
You have to.
I agree with that. I think to the general been alive and death is at the foot of the sun. If he goes to death and lies, he's showing the court and like letting the dance court basically avoiding to line it up with what he didn't do, and then instead he put up with himself.
Yeah, I think because you want to take responsibility for the actions and you want to really clear the situation about what's happening, what was going on, so you know what's up. And you want to say his livelihood and what's up.
So what we're saying here is that your reputation and your family's reputation is more important than your life.
This is what for the last one.
It's not
No.
just, it's not just reputation.
What do you mean? Say it, Princess.
He's helping out the whole entire community, their whole mindset and their whole logic doesn't make sense, it's really unfair, and it's like I said, his death was a statement to all.
Do you think that his death changed people's minds?
Team tails.
Okay, so is that enough to change one person's mind?
Yeah. Okay.
I agree with Mecca and yeah, because
I
if
would-
you like stop the loophole of accusation, you feel like I'm being normalized.
I feel like you should have said more there. That was a really, really good start. So he absolutely did that. He closed the loophole. He closed that what's the word I'm looking for here? He closed that pattern of people just confessing and then accusing someone else, confessing and accusing someone else. He was probably was he the first person to do this?
No.
Who was the first person that we saw in the play do this?
Come.
Giles Corey, who else? We read it yesterday. Rebecca Nurse. So at the end here, we see that he contributed to that. These three people, Giles, Rebecca, him, they refused to admit to something that they didn't do. They closed that loop finally at the very end. Okay, so is he a hero? Darius, what do you think? Yeah,
He played Fortnite.
sorry,
Sitting here and playing Fortnite.
cannot hear you. What? Mm-hmm. He helped change Reverend Hill's mind, certainly. Okay, thank you. Now, I want to just give the floor now to anyone who would like to bring up any additional points that you have written down, any questions you may have that you'd like to bring up and discuss.
Yeah, I have a question.
Anything,
I have some.
Anything that you have, remember, do not address me because I am not part of this conversation.
I have some
I'm
questions.
simply here to facilitate. So I'm going to have Elijah say something, and then Kishab, you can ask your question, okay?
I feel like he's a hero because he was thinking like about a lot of people in the community before he got his family. So
He's gonna
he
say
let
something.
people like
He
what
can
he
have
did.
his question.
let people to like follow his dreams, you know,
Mhm.
and speak out for himself and do what's right, you know.
Thank you, Elijah. Kishab, you had your question for the group?
Yup. Was the witch trial similar to any current events when Miller wrote this? And why is John Proctor having an affair with Abigail Williams? But he's a religious man.
What's that question again? What's just the question?
Oh, just a question.
Yeah, just the question.
Yeah, I have two questions. I think I have two questions. Yeah.
The last your question.
No, I have.
Oh,
So
so
read that.
Oh,
why
yeah.
does he have that affair with Abigail?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when we think about like what kind of started all
Yeah.
this in the play, what did start all of this? The affair. Who do you think in the context of that affair, in the context of that relationship, who do you think was more to blame for what eventually became the Salem witch trial? Abigail Williams. Do we think Abigail Williams is like John Proctor? Why John Proctor?
Because he was old enough to like know what he was doing.
What was he doing?
cheating on his wife, which is a sin,
Okay.
like with a child, like, basically. And like he was old enough to know about that. And if he didn't do that, then she would have like fell in love with him and do all of that stuff, which like led to accuse his wife or like do that spell in the beginning.
Mhm.
So it was basically his fault, and he was the one that finished it at the end.
I disagree
I
with
disagree.
Ken. Because Abigail was the one that was obsessed with Arthur. She was the one that left, like she was the one that kissed him and stuff, and yeah. So Arthur wasn't like he had like he was nothing to be accused of
Mhm.
in that situation.
I agree. I would think that she would have done what she done from the beginning if we didn't even have that area. Like she would have still like loved him and wanted him more. If he didn't have that area, she would still have done the stuff she did.
Why do we think she did what she did?
She loved him.
Was it she's crazy? Was it just because she loved John Proctor so much?
She saved herself too.
What do you mean to save herself?
Because she was getting accused of being a witch. She's in that forest with her friends. So she started lying and saying other people were witches.
Mhm.
Even though
So,
or next.
as a Puritan woman, a young Puritan woman of that time, what do you think she felt for the first time that she could not control? Power. What did she do with this power?
Abusing.
Okay. It seems like her actions also resulted in an abuse of power, and she herself is a reflection of that corruption, and that resulted in what phenomenon in the culture, in that society?
Mass hysteria.
Chaos, hysteria. Absolutely. Now, does anyone remember the essential question that we have for the year? What's our essential question for the year? We talked about it, I think, when we were discussing Gatsby. What is our essential question for the year?
What is American Dream?
Nope. That was just for Gatsby.
Oh,
Conformity.
Okay, not conformity, but same basic idea. What is the balance between individualism and collectivism, and how do we achieve it? Anyone remember that? Yes, we should. So in this play, I think this play is rich with discussion for the balance between individualism and collectivism. Which character or idea or event here do you think best represents that balance between someone who is their own individual person and someone who conforms to the collective? Who found that balance in this play more than anyone? Discuss. You just have a name and you're like, all right, no, that's it, I'm good. I got it. I'm gonna play with my nails now. That's fine. Yep, that's great.
I really don't understand the question.
So, which character do you think best is the best symbol of someone who found that balance between individualism and collectivism? Individualism meaning someone who follows their own individual path. Collectivism meaning someone who conforms to the collective community. Who here found that balance?
I say Abigail.
Why Abigail?
Because like since she had that power, she was like basically saying what she wanted, like, accusing others of like what she wanted to do. But at the same time, like she still follows like what the judges what happened in the society.
I said Judge Danforth because he followed his own self. He doesn't agree. He doesn't agree with anyone. Like whatever they say, even if it's true or not.
But does he do that because that's what he firmly believes, or because that's what the community expects?
Because that's what the community expects.
I say Reverend Hill.
Ooh, I like Reverend Hale for that. Say more.
Because on the side of like he was on the side and he was mostly agreeing with the judges, but he didn't want to agree to the judges. Sometimes he did things on his own, like he tried to look for evidence and he tried to find evidence as to like, how they did it instead of just something straight to conclusion.
I agree with yeah, because hell, we went to like Proctor's house to find evidence of what the wishes and stuff. He was not selfish. He would like agree with the community. He went out for details, and And yeah, was like almost like yeah, basically was not like what's it?
He didn't conform.
Yeah, confirmed.
I think that's one of the things that's most admirable about Reverend Hale. He's one of the ones who actually wanted to find out the truth. And that's why he went to people's houses and asked them questions and all of that. Absolutely. Does anyone have any final points they'd like to contribute? Anything? Any
No.
questions? Anything at all? So, why did John have to sign something when not everyone else did? Not everyone else did. Anyone remember why John had to sign something?
No,
Not because of the adultery. He wasn't admitting to the adultery.
his name was big among the community for being like against the community basically. So to have his name under a confession would mean that like I don't know, it was just a big thing to have for them.
So, does anyone remember what happened in the neighboring community of Andover? People started rebelling against the accusation. They started rioting against the courts. The one way that the judges in Salem thought, you know what, we have to stop any potential riots here. The one thing we can do to make sure that everyone knows this is to get one of the most popular people in this town to confess. Not just to us, but to everyone. And what's the way to confess to everyone? By signing the thing and posting it on the church. So they wanted to make an example. Does that answer your question, Andrew? Do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't think it's answerable though. I wanted to know like town open and like just
Yeah, we don't know anything about the town. I mean, I'm sure you can find out online.
Then what?
But I'm not exactly sure. All right, everyone. I'm gonna end the seminar there. I heard from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. However, there are many more people in this class who
I think I heard
not
you.
here,
Right.
and I really lament that because everyone's voice and everyone's opinion here is something that can really help our discussion and make it much richer. What is the one thing that right now, as we look at each other and we can reflect, what is the one thing that we should have done more instead of just participating? What should we have included more?
evidence.
Textual evidence. I have textual evidence from Fanta, a little bit from Eliza, and Keyshawn.
It takes.
You got it, bro.
Ah!
Everyone, let's make sure that we push ourselves to find that textual evidence to support our arguments in the future. You know we're going to have more of these, and as we go on, they will become more challenging. We're not packing up yet. If you are packing up, you can stay afterwards for 30 minutes. Now, tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to finish watching The Crucible. On Friday, especially to those who did not do their seminar, there's the opportunity for extra credit on Friday. On Friday, what we're going to do is we're going to hold a funeral for John Proctor. That's what it is going to be. And for extra credit, you will write your own eulogy for John Proctor and read it.
This is eulogy of you and me.
Anyone know what a eulogy is?
I know what the eulogy is.
Hi, Sean.
It's basically describing what they give in life.
I remember this.
Honoring someone's
I remember
life.
some. This is a eulogy of you and me.
In a way, an obituary, except it is a lot more,
Almost a year.
I'll say it's a lot more informational regarding who this person was and why their life was so important. And it is a speech. An obituary is not a speech. An eulogy
It's a declaration.
is a speech given. Sorry, let me just go to the, Caroline had his hand up and I'll come to you, man.
Do we have to wear black?
You can wear black if you'd like more extra credit points. I'm gonna be wearing all black.
What?
Sean?
What do you mean by in a way? Like, what do you mean by that?
Very close.
In a way, for what?
Like you say, every single time we say something, clearly right as you said, in a way.
Well, in a way.
In a
yeah.
way. What does it mean? Is it right or wrong?
No. There's no, listen, I'm not Dan. There's no right or wrong. There's only everyone, have a good rest of your day. Thank you for those who engaged.
Thanks.
I will see you all tomorrow.
Plus 5-8, please come down. Plus 5-8, please come down. I only want plus 5-8.
Thanks. That-